This is a podcast by WellHouse Church, where personal spiritual growth is fueled through a variety of practices rather than a single prescriptive time of devotion, where we discuss different spiritual practices that help us be more present with God, others, and ourselves.
What's going on, practitioners?
What up?
We're about to prepare you to practice Prayer of Recollection.
That's right.
How did you like that?
Prepare you to practice.
To prepare you to practice X thing.
I dig it.
Just came to me in the moment.
We'll see. We'll see how it flows. Let us know if you like it. Let us know if you like it.
Always. As always. We're doing this stuff for you. So if you don't like it, you got to tell us.
That's right. We are doing this content for you. And actually, we need to say thank you to our listeners of this podcast, because over the last probably closer to 10 weeks as we've been doing this prayer series, this is our fastest growing podcast. And in May, it was our second most watched.
You guys are awesome.
The best.
And I remember I said this, I don't know, a couple months ago. Those of you who listen and watch this, y'all are the real ones.
Yep.
Because this was our least performing podcast.
For a very long
time.
It was least performing.
It was our least performing podcast. But now, you guys are doing great.
Well, and what happened was, I think, is in the beginning, I got a little discouraged, which will feed into this practice. But I got a little discouraged because I was like, look, I know people want this content. I know there are people looking for this.
Because people don't know how to pray. They don't know.
Right. They don't know how to do any of this.
Yeah.
Spiritual formation is just not taught the right way. But it wasn't it was getting 30 views a month or something.
Yeah. It wasn't much.
Super low. And then we did the Enneagram series. And then we left the Enneagram series and started the prayer series. And those people started finding us because they were searching for how to pray. They were searching for Enneagram and spiritual formation and those kinds of things. And our views started to go up. People started finding us, and this thing is blowing up.
It's taken off.
In the last 90 days, it only has 10% less views than A Closer Look, which is our highest performing podcast.
Wow.
Yeah. Last week, it doubled A Closer Look's views.
Jeez, man.
Or almost doubled, just less.
Way to go, practitioners.
That's right.
Love you guys.
It's the best.
Love you guys.
So, let's talk about Prayer of Recollection.
Let's do it.
So, I've been saying it for years. Life is so busy here in America. And once again, I know it's not the same worldwide, and we have listeners we are on 6 of 7 continents.
Yeah.
With all of our podcasts. So
There's
I know we've got
cultural
people all over the world, and there are a lot of cultural differences. But here specifically in America, the world moves so fast.
Yeah, legit. I did not stop today.
Yeah, it's nonstop. There's always something.
It is now 9:29, and I have not stopped since my feet hit the floor at 8 o'clock this morning.
Yeah. Life is crazy and busy and fast. And with all of that come a ton of distractions. I mean, I was thinking about something. The average person here in America sleeps, what would you say, 7 hours a night?
Oh, I'd say it's probably less than that, but yeah, for easy math.
So we're going to do this math real quick, okay? 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. There's 168 hours in a week.
Yep.
You spend 40 of them at work.
Yep.
and you spend 49 of them asleep.
Yep.
That's only 79 hours left, and that assumes you don't work any overtime.
Yeah.
You also hadn't done any chores. You hadn't driven to work. You hadn't done anything.
Yep.
So 168. Yeah. Just in sleeping and work, if you don't work any overtime, you've used up like 60% of your hours. You hadn't ate, you hadn't eaten anything, you hadn't cooked, you hadn't cleaned, you hadn't paid your bills, you hadn't filled the gas up in your car, you hadn't went to the grocery store, you hadn't taken your kids to practice, you hadn't went to the ball games.
You hadn't done church stuff.
Yeah, and we hadn't even got to church. That's just stuff.
Yeah.
Like that everybody's got to do. Like life is so, you hadn't cut your grass.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Life is so busy.
Life is busy.
And life moves so fast. And with that, there are so many distractions.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere you turn, there are distractions.
Mm-hmm.
Prayer of Recollection, in my mind, is very similar to the centering prayer. It's a little bit different, though, because in the centering prayer, I look at it more as like you're trying to calm anxieties. You're centering yourself. Prayer of Recollection is when you become very much aware of the fact that you are distracted and you need to take a minute, you need to take a breath, and you need to recollect yourself back into resting in the presence of God. Living in this restful place that God is good and he is good to me. That's what recollection is. It's getting away from all these distractions and busyness that keep us crazy, right? We say it all the time on here. We're not looking for you to spend an hour a day in a traditional quiet time.
Yeah.
That's not what we do. I don't do that most days.
I don't either.
There are some days I do it, but I don't do that most days. I like to talk about my spiritual formation routine as like a menu. It's almost like I wake up and I decide I'm going to go to breakfast and I look at the breakfast menu.
Yep.
I don't eat the same thing for breakfast every day. Well, that's not entirely true. I actually do, but
mine's typically spread out throughout the day.
Yeah, so I will get up first thing in the morning and do something. Even if it's just like breath prayer or praying the hours. Like I'm going to do something right when I get up. But I don't want to dedicate 1 hour nonstop in the morning if that's going to prohibit me from practicing throughout the day.
Yeah. Typically what I do is maybe it's not first thing, but whenever I get in my car, I turn on worship music. And sometimes I pray, sometimes I don't. Right?
Yeah.
But I just have a little bit of a worship time on my way to work. Yeah. That's the first thing that I typically do.
Yeah. Well, I hate driving, and I don't drive that much. So
I drive all the flipping time now. So
yeah, I hardly ever drive anymore, which I'm grateful for because I don't like driving that much. But getting back to recollection, because life moves so fast and it's crazy, what I find myself doing is if I give an hour first thing in the morning, it's almost like I put God on a shelf.
Yeah.
I don't actually do it, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, God, I've given you your time. Now it's my time. And I just feel like for myself, if I do a little bit, if I take that hour basically and spread it throughout the day, I feel like I get more bang for my buck.
Yeah. Because you're forced to engage with him all day long.
Well, and it allows me to practice prayer of recollection because I'm very aware of how many distractions I have as I go throughout the day. And lots of times, this is true story. Back when I used to have a timer on my phone when I was driving back and forth to Waco, I used to have a timer on my phone that would go off whenever it was time to pray the hours. I turned it off, but I had that timer on my phone, and about half the time when that alarm would go off, I would go, no, not right now. I'm too busy. And I would immediately go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Prayer recollection. You're not this busy. Like, you can't be too busy for God. You are, this is school for God. Like, you can't be this busy to not take time to pray. And so I would skip praying the hours
and do a prayer
and do prayer of recollection, because it's so easy. Because, well, let me say, I think because God is in most of our minds so transcendent, he's just way up there, that we almost don't feel like he's in and amongst us dealing with our distractions. Whereas me, I view God as so much more imminent than I do transcendent. Like, if I had to put it on a split, it's like 60-40 that God is here and with me here and now, grinding it out with me.
Yeah.
So because of that, I'm much more apt to say, God, what do I do in this moment? Because I'm like, God's right here. It's like, if we're sitting in the car and somebody cuts me off in traffic, it's like I'm looking in the passenger seat going, God, what do I do? Because like, I think he's right here with me. And so I can, because of that, I can be very aware of how my distractions are affecting me. If you view God as very transcendent, like uber transcendent, like almost deistic in a way, you're probably not doing prayer of recollection. Because God ain't concerned with your problems. He busy. Like,
don't bother Korean Jesus. He busy.
Yeah, it's like, but honestly, you know, we laugh at that every time we watch 21 Jump Street. And then what do they do in 22? They go across the street. It's Vietnamese Jesus. Yeah.
Something like that.
We laugh at that.
It's incredibly racist and also incredibly like sacrilegious, but it's funny, and I don't know why.
Well, why is that any more racist or sacrilegious than going into the Baptist church in Georgia with white and blonde-haired Jesus?
I did a whole presentation on that stuff whenever I was at community college. Nobody liked it because it stepped on their toes, and it was about Jesus. But I did a whole thing on that. It's absolutely racist.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing.
Absolutely racist.
It's the exact same thing, and yet for hundreds of years, it was in every church throughout the South.
Yeah, Jesus with blonde hair and blue eyes.
Yeah, white baby Jesus. It's like, nah, homeboy. White baby Jesus ain't a thing.
He brown.
He dark.
Yeah.
I don't know how dark, but he dark. He not white.
He's not white.
So, if you view God as this like super transcendent, like up there in the sky, just like the grand puppet master or whatever, like if that's your view of God, that's fine. But like, you're not going to do prayer of recollection.
Yeah, no.
Or let me say, you could, but it's not going to be one you like go to regularly. Prayer of recollection is much more for those who have a very imminent view of God, that God is here with me now.
Yeah.
Now you can, let me say, it's possible to have a 50-50 split, that God's as imminent as he is transcendent. I just don't think very many people hold that balance.
Yeah. I try to view God as more imminent. It makes me feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, whether he is or he isn't, I'm pretty confident that he is.
Yeah, me too.
But it does make me feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like I can look in the passenger seat and know that, you know, go Carrie Underwood, Jesus take the wheel. Right?
Yeah.
But like, it does make me feel like I've got my co-pilot.
Yeah.
Right. I've got somebody
Yeah,
next to me.
Yeah.
Going through this with me, even if I'm like physically alone, spiritually, I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we would all do well to approach it in that way. So let's talk about the actual prayer of recollection.
Yeah.
So Adele Calhoun says the desire of this prayer is to rest in God, allowing him to calm and heal my fragmented and distracted self. I want to talk about that. She uses this word fragmented several times throughout this chapter. Honestly, I never thought about distractions as being fragments.
That's exactly what they are, though.
That's exactly what they are.
Yeah.
Because I do think, and we haven't done a whole lot talking about Satan or the enemy on this podcast, but I do think the greatest weapon of the enemy is distractions. Because if you just think about it, and a great example of this is COVID. As of the latest poll that I saw, of the people that were attending church in January of 2020, before COVID, our best guess, this is no cap, what percentage of people do you think are back in person in a building?
It's like less than 20%, isn't it?
No, it's like right around 30%.
Okay.
But still, 70% of people were like, nah.
Yeah.
Why were they like, nah? Is it because they quit loving Jesus?
No, it's because they realize they're busy and they can get Jesus in other ways.
That's exactly right. And it all happened through a distraction.
Yeah.
It all happened where we were like, you know what? I'm so busy that I would just much rather save the 5 hours and just spend 45 minutes watching online.
Yeah.
But that's fragmented because you're not getting one of the most important parts. Community. It's a fragment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the more I think about it, all of these distractions are fragments.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's like, so I do this all the time, and I hate that I do this, and I'm going to start doing prayer of recollection whenever I catch myself doing it. I'll be at work, and I'll be in the middle of something, and my alarm will go off for my midday prayer. I'm like, nah, I'm busy.
Nah, yeah.
I'm busy.
Dude, I did the same thing.
I'm busy. I can't do this right now. And it's absolutely a fragment, right? Mm-hmm. Because my whole life, the big picture, love God, love people, serve God, serve people.
Yep.
If I'm typing away on a computer, I'm not doing either of those things.
Right.
That's a fragment of my entire life.
Yep.
And if I'm muting my midday prayer to type on a computer, to work in an Excel spreadsheet on something that is important, but it's not overall, like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
That's a fragmented piece of my life.
Yeah, well, and I think more so than that, let's take it in our idea of wholeness. For us at WellHouse, what is wholeness? Living fully within your identity as a person of God, beloved by God, and doing the things of God.
Yeah.
Anything that takes you out of wholeness is fragmenting your wholeness.
You are no longer whole when you are distracted and fragmented.
Yes. Exactly. And so what Adele says the definition of this is the prayer of recollection represents a specifically restful attitude of connecting with the reality that God is in me. And we let go of distractions. As we let go of distractions, this prayer recalls the soul to its true center and identity in Christ. It's about wholeness.
Yeah.
Distractions fragment us from our wholeness. Recollection is bringing us back into wholeness.
I really like what she said here. Transformation into Christ-likeness requires detachment from whatever keeps us from returning to and resting in God, who is our treasure and our core.
Yeah.
Right. transformation into Christ likeness. That is our whole point, right? Becoming like Christ, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is, if you've watched and listened to Pints and Perspectives, like, you know, where we fall soteriologically in deification, that is what we believe is our sole purpose as Christians and humans.
Is to be conformed into the image of Christ.
Yeah.
That's Paul.
That's what we believe.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is our goal, and we're letting these other things take us away from that,
Mm-hmm.
we are not being true Christians, right? We are not being little Christs, right?
Yep.
And that's scary to think about, actually.
It is. It is. I want to end with this quote from her. She says, "Remember, the self caught up in worry, power plays, and image management is not the true self. It's a self that creates its identity through the attachment to secondary things. But God has given you an identity. Receive it. Recollect your Christ in me identity. Over time, the prayer of recollection is meant to shape your soul so you rest in the bosom of Christ, in the arms of God, in the love of the Spirit."